It's official, beloved. We's gotta push back against the onslaught of the Ukraine war. Now, hear me out. I know you's like them Ukrainianies who ain't paid another dime. Hear me out. We's got to bring those international European slanders back. We's got to hate on the Polacks because we don't want to pay for none of their shit. We don't go on and give them F-16s. Hell no. What we want to do is give them shit that we don't have the infrastructure or the parts to maintain, like Soviet or failed infrastructures and layovers from, the Balkanized and or the Warsaw Pact states. We think that most of that munitions have been burnt up, but we know that in reality, they's going to try and use the Polacks to come in and bring the Americans next to them. And they's going to push the Polacks going to push the Americans up to the line and get them vaporized. Goddamn vaporized by the Russians so that we get all mad and get involved. That's their plan. Europe, their third war running, wants us, America, their knight in shining armor, whom we do all the damn things for. I'll quit doing that. They ain't doing nothing for us. And all of their trade deals benefit them and not us. And their international concerned companies are in our job pool, ruining jobs and futures for Americans while we talk right now. That's their plan. Their next is to launch the AI infrastructure future that destroys yours and your children's future. Let me remind you, it's not going to go off. That's a Saturnian subject, to Saturn everybody's opportunities onto a digital infrastructure. Let me remind you, the architecture thereof is Saturn, and he does not plan to do those things. Jupiter brought those things in. Took the pattern of the mind and the concept, because what the circuitry and stuff is in it, it's a pattern for how this existence works, how the mind works, how things are in micro. It's not exactly that, but in micro, how things are put together. And at the supercomputer level, they're even closer, right? Because we quantify similarities between the human's mind ability to compute, complex, convey, organize, much different than hardware that uses hardware and software and intelligent authorities between those two communications, AI, to function at a high level for application, right? Well, the human brain does this based on, not everybody's able to get to that level, but based on development, because you must be developed. That's why I say humanity's not going up until the bottom of humanity comes up, right? So when I talk like, you guys can't go to the stars, you can't go to the galaxies, you can't really get on the planets or do anything. Well, not that you should be on those things, because those are actually gears that move this thing we're on, the focal point of the whole concept. Until humanity itself raises from the bottom to where high society is, where we can say that high society is wise to do evil. So then that's not a development, that's a decadence, right? So at the bottom it's a decadence, and at the top it's a decadence. So then what do we have? An opportunity to look, revise, and move forward. But we're not doing that as a people. We have people corralling resources at the top, a corporate occupation, and all sorts of weird ass shit that keeps people in an advantage, in authority, above people that should have access to resources. That's why I think businesses should have their own, aka corporate concerns that are international, right? International business shouldn't be part of American economic mix, right? Because they bring resource vats into our competition pool for jobs. Shouldn't be servicing them with our M2 because they get loans. Gets access to our economy, so they get publicly traded, publicly loans. We all pay taxes and crazy shit on these loans. We have an engagement process that over-engages us for corporate greed, infrastructure, and loans. They get to buy loans at a high level, guys. Check it out. We're paying taxes and crazy shit on their loans, right? They should have their own. There should be a corpse M2, like an M4 or M3, because I know there's like an M3. There needs to be a separate corporation, M2, where they just have their own money system. And they have their own tax structure based on how much of that money they each use, right? In relation to the whole. Just like businesses in the private sector and homes in the private sector should pay tax, not variable property tax that runs up and down. They should pay home loan tax based on the M2 they use, right? Because that makes sense. Because that's a portion of the economy they use. You should be accountable for the portion you use. And the people at the top should be accountable because the government is accountable for us being employed. Did you know that they took authority over that a long time ago through the New Deal Act and a bunch of other things? They're actually on the hook for keeping us employed. That's why we have unemployment and a bunch of things. We need to hold them to account. They're not doing what they ought to be doing. They're not serving us. They're serving corporations. We should be making businesses that serve us, not serving businesses that make us stuff that we really don't want. We need to refix. That's why I said there's 3 different American directions here. Maybe Florida to Texas needs the Gulf. Maybe New York needs its thing. Maybe like the Midwest can strip down into Texas, right? And then the California can have and everybody has their own coasts, right? We could control the Gulf and take care of Mexico because Mexico is it's a chemical warfare campaign and invasion for decades. And it's unmitigated and caused deaths and influxes of all kinds of narcotics, destructive chemicals, destructive people who, because if I get in trouble, I got trouble here, I can't leave to other countries and be a citizen, but they'd run up here and can evade the judgments of their country and come here and do the same things they ran away from. Except get away with worse, because they get access to more here and touch more lives. Just some thoughts. They're blown.